It's 3:45 in the morning. A storm is tearing across rural North Carolina. Heavy rain, cold wind, no streetlights for long stretches of highway, and walking along the edge of Highway 18 is a 9-year-old girl, alone. She isn't crying. She isn't running. She's walking with purpose. When a truck driver slows down, confused by what he's seeing, she doesn't ask for help. She runs, straight into the woods. That was the last confirmed sighting of Asha Degree. And 25 years later, investigators are no longer calling this a disappearance. They're calling it a homicide. So the question becomes, why would a cautious, sheltered, church-raised 9-year-old leave her home in the middle of the night? And who was waiting for her in the dark? Let's tear into it. Asha Degree was 9 years old. She lived in Shelby, North Carolina, a quiet community on the western edge of the Charlotte metro area. Her parents, Harold Degree and Aquila Degree, had built a structured, protective life for their 2 children. They didn't have a computer in the house. They monitored television. Their world revolved around church, school, and extended family. Aquila once said she was terrified of online predators, stories of children being lured away. So she eliminated the risk entirely. Asha was described as shy, cautious, afraid of dogs, not rebellious, not defiant, the kind of child who stayed inside the lines. She shared a bedroom with her older brother, O'Brien Degree. And on February 13th, 2000, the night before she vanished, everything seemed normal. Church that morning, family time, bed by 8 p.m. Then, around 9 p.m., the power goes out in the neighborhood after a nearby accident. Darkness. It comes back on at 12:30 a.m. Her father checks on both children. They're asleep. He checks again at 2:30 a.m., still asleep. And sometime after that, Asha gets up. O'Brien later recalls hearing her bed squeak. He assumes she's shifting in her sleep. Instead, she's packing. Asha takes a book bag she had prepared earlier. Inside were multiple sets of clothes, personal items, things you bring if you don't plan on coming back soon. She quietly leaves the house. No forced entry, no sign of struggle, no note. Between 3:45 and 4:15 a.m., 2 independent motorists see her walking south along North Carolina Highway 18. It's raining. One driver turns around because something feels wrong. A small child, alone, in a storm. He circles back 3 times. When he approaches, she bolts, runs into the woods, disappears. And here's the detail that investigators have never ignored. She didn't run toward the road. She ran away from help. At 5:45 a.m., Aquila wakes up to get the children ready for school. Asha's bed is empty. The house is searched. The cars are checked. Family across the street is called. Nothing. By 6:40 a.m., police are on scene. Search dogs are deployed. They cannot pick up her scent. Friends, neighbors, church members flood the area. By the end of the day, only one item is recovered. A mitten. And it doesn't even belong to Asha. This is where the narrative begins to fracture. Because early on, investigators considered the possibility, did she run away? But here's the problem with that theory. 9-year-olds don't typically orchestrate midnight departures in storms. Especially cautious 9-year-olds. Especially ones terrified of dogs. And especially ones who run from strangers offering help. The next day, February 15th, something is found near where she ran into the woods. Candy wrappers. A pencil. A green marker. A yellow hair bow. Her parents identify them as hers. Also found nearby, a wallet-sized photograph of another young girl. The Degrees do not recognize her. Why is that important? Because if Asha met someone, if she was groomed, if she believed she was going somewhere specific, that photograph might represent trust, or planning, or a promise. But that's speculation. And this case has lived in speculation for 25 years. A week later, the massive search effort, over 9,000 man-hours, is suspended. No body, no confirmed abduction scene, no definitive lead. But then, a year later, the case explodes again. In 2001, construction workers in Morganton, about 26 miles north of Shelby, uncover something buried along Highway 18. It's Asha's book bag, double wrapped in plastic, intentionally concealed. This was not discarded, it was preserved. Inside, investigators later identified two items as particularly significant. A copy of McGilligan's Pool by Dr. Seuss, a library book from her elementary school, and a New Kids on the Block concert t-shirt. Neither item clearly explained, both described as vital clues. Now pause here. Someone took her bag, transported it over 20 miles, buried it, wrapped it. That suggests planning. That suggests someone understood evidence. And that strongly suggests Asha did not simply wander off. This is when investigators begin leaning harder toward abduction. In 2016, the FBI publicly releases a new detail. Asha may have been seen getting into a dark green, early 1970s Lincoln Continental Mark IV, or possibly a similar era Ford Thunderbird near Highway 18, rust around the wheel wells. Why release that 16 years later? Because it implies something critical. They believe she was meeting someone, not randomly taken. Meeting someone, which circles back to the biggest psychological mystery of this case. How do you convince a sheltered 9-year-old to leave her house at 3 a.m.? No computer, no known internet contact, no history of running away. So how? Church, school, basketball, family acquaintance. That's where the investigation starts tightening. In 2015, the Federal Bureau of Investigation formally joins local authorities in re-examining the case. A $25,000 reward is announced. Hundreds of interviews follow. The FBI's Child Abduction Rapid Deployment Team assists. And then, in September 2024, authorities execute a search warrant tied to physical evidence. Among the items seized was a green 1964 AMC Rambler. No remains are recovered, but investigators state something publicly that shifts everything. They believe Asha was the victim of homicide. In February 2025, the case is officially reclassified as a homicide investigation. Search warrants are executed, cell phones seized, text messages between suspects obtained, and in April 2025, a property once owned by a prominent figure in the investigation is searched. For the first time in 25 years, this doesn't feel like a cold case. It feels active, it feels close, but no arrests have been announced, no charges filed, and no remains recovered. There's another layer to this case. In 2013, Asha Degree spoke openly about what she believed was unequal media attention. She stated that missing white children often receive more coverage than missing black children. And statistically, that criticism has weight, which may explain why many outside North Carolina had never heard Asha's name. But locally, her presence has never faded. Every year, her family holds a walk from their home to the billboard along Highway 18, where she was last seen. They moved the date off Valentine's Day so it wouldn't overshadow what was once their wedding anniversary. Pictures of Asha, including age-progressed images, still hang in their home. Her mother has said, "I fully expect her to walk through the door." That statement is both hope and heartbreak. Let's zoom out. Asha packed deliberately, left quietly, walked with purpose, ran from help. Her belongings were found in a shed. Her book bag was buried miles away, and investigators now believe she was murdered. So here's the haunting part. If she was groomed, that grooming didn't happen online. It likely happened face-to-face. Someone in proximity, someone patient, someone who built trust strong enough to override fear of storms, fear of darkness, fear of dogs, and fear of strangers. Someone she believed she was safe with. The storm that night may have concealed more than footprints. It may have concealed a planned meeting. And if that's true, then the most chilling possibility isn't that Asha wandered into danger, it's that she walked toward it, knowingly, trusting someone who didn't deserve it. 25 years later, investigators say they are closer than ever. But until there is an arrest, until there are answers, Highway 18 remains a question mark carved into the dark. And somewhere in that storm, a 9-year-old vanished. If you have thoughts on the grooming theory versus forced abduction, I want to hear them below. And if this case is new to you, share it, because awareness keeps pressure alive, and pressure solves cases. Thanks for watching.